Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Definitely post where you are in the world in the chat. My name is Catherine Mattice. I'm the founder and CEO of Civility Partners, and we focus on building positive, respectful work environments. And ultimately, a lot of our clients were turning around toxic and negative environments. And I love doing this show because I get to meet interesting people. And today I get to meet with Stacey Luces. She's an international speaker, trainer, master strategist, best-selling author, and executive coach. She's been doing that for 25 years. And her new book, We Rise in Power, Amplifying Women of Color and Her Voices for Change, is available in March. Super excited for that. And Stacey is really focused on helping executive women reduce their stress, find joy, and build the life of their dreams, all while being in the sandwich generation, which this totally resonates with me. So I'm looking forward to getting some coaching today. Thanks for being with me, Stacey.
Thanks, Catherine. And I got to tell you, Catherine is one of my favorite names. My daughter's name is also Alyssa Catherine. So definitely big points for that. Just thank you for having me. I'm excited to share and listen and learn. Also, hopefully people in the chat have great questions and insight.
Yeah, definitely ask questions. I got to ask, does your daughter spell her name correctly or does she spell it wrong?
Incorrectly with the K.
All right, well, I'll let it slide.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so there are lots and lots of women, millions of women, myself included, who have parents who are aging. We also have long-term business goals. We have to support our families. We're all known as the sandwich generation. And so I like how you say that generation's delay in childbearing. Indeed, I didn't have my first child until I think I was 33. So yeah, I'm raising little kids, a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old. I have a 79-year-old mom, all while running a business and trying to reach my own personal career goals. So how do we function in a situation like that? Give me some insight on that.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak for myself and many of my clients and the women and the research that I've seen, but a lot of us in this sandwich generation, and I like that they gave it a really cute name because who doesn't love a great sandwich, but it doesn't feel that good. There's that pressure and that tension between caring for our young families and navigating, I guess in your case, pre-K, middle school, high school soon. In my case, high school and college soon. And then dealing with parents who are not only living longer than they have ever been, but also they have very different needs, right? And may not have saved properly for those upcoming needs. I find that we are, and statistically, the research backs this, we are 25% more likely to have high blood pressure, heart disease. We live a bit of an isolated life because we're leaving work early to go either pick somebody up or drop somebody off. We're constantly maybe negating promotions because we figure that increased responsibility may not allow us certain flexibilities. And so we miss out, I think, on a lifetime earning of $138,000 just by opting out of pursuing things for our careers. Yeah. Your question about how to navigate this. I think for me, I found myself burnt out, stressed out, quite literally. I had emergency surgery and flatlined twice. So I like to say I died and came back and had to learn the hard way. And my hope is that, the woman that I'm working with and kind of anybody listening doesn't go that route because it's no fun. I think what it started with is really doing an honest ground assessment of where you are with your own health and with your own boundaries and with your own values. I think a lot of times we get caught up with doing everything for everyone and putting everybody above ourselves, and we come last and we're scarfing food and not working out and doing all the things, and it catches up with us. For me, a really good coach helped me kind of look at my mindset, start doing yoga. Meditation is a great thing, right? For that peace of mind and focus. Because when you hit the ground, you're running all day for 12, 13, 14 hours sometimes. So I do think those two things, like a good health assessment, figuring out where you are, getting some professional help, and that doesn't necessarily only mean a coach. It could be talking to your HR professionals. I'm sure they have resources. If it's mental wellness and you're sort of struggling around overwhelm, like have no shame about pursuing your needs. And I think we wear the Superwoman cape very proudly, and we sort of strut about like we really can do it all. And maybe we can, but specifically in the sandwich generation, it burns us out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I always openly say I have therapy every Thursday at 2:00, and I love that my team, I move meetings around for other situations, but therapy that nobody ever asks, can we move your therapy session to, do X, Y, and Z?
For sure, for
they
sure.
support me.
Yeah.
And we've got people from Canada, Montana, Central Valley, Atlanta, Kentucky. Thanks all for being here. And Mark Canty says, hi, Stacey. The gang's
hey, Mark.
here. They are here cheerleading for you on our interview today. Everything you're saying, I feel like I'm getting kind of emotional because we do really feel like we have to put it out there that we can do it all. Yeah. Something I've been talking a lot about lately in my own realm, and even before COVID, was this idea of vulnerability at work. And I think that's part of the problem, is that part of why we feel the need to appear as though we can do it all is those promotions, those extra projects. We want to appear as though we're saying we got it, no problemo. And I think we need to, as organizations start to make a little more room for vulnerability, hopefully the need to wear that cape all the time can start to evolve into something different, to be able to say, I can take that project on, but I'm going to have to be I'll work on it after my kids go to bed or whatever. And I think that's where COVID had a silver lining, right? That idea of flexible work being so much more okay, that we don't have to work during certain office hours in the office in order to get that project done, or whatever, so this all resonates with me.
I'm so happy it does, and I think that coming out of the pandemic, it certainly was very tragic and heartbreaking for many people. And I also think the other side of that story is it really hit the reset button for a lot of women in particular, who were kind of doing the drudge 24/7, to really kind of sit back and think, what do I want to do with my life? And I feel like part of that great resignation doesn't have to be that great. I think more employers, to your point, are really leaning into what does wellness mean, right? And there are all these components to wellness. I confess, I thought wellness was just eat a good salad, right, and move for 30 minutes. But really it encompasses all of those dimensions of health, spirituality, the relationships that you have, right, that support you, financial health, all of those things that come into play to make you a whole you showing up for work. And I think some, not all, but some employers are really reevaluating what it means to have an engaged workforce that is wholly productive, wholly engaged, and acknowledging that you have a life outside of like the hours that you are there with them. So
yeah. And definitely. Also, why should you miss out on amazing talent, people like us, just because we have kids and maybe we can't be at the 4:00 meeting that's held every Thursday,
right.
No reason that so hopefully organizations are starting to realize this. I see it a little bit, but I still think we have a long way to go.
And
go ahead.
Part of it is good stewardship of ourselves, right? I think that my organization was getting really comfortable doing noon meetings. And it's like, oh my gosh, you guys, like, at least let me grab a sandwich. No pun intended. But but definitely, like, give me a little bit of room to breathe. And like, I don't know about you, but I totally got a COVID puppy. And so that's like having a newborn and wanting to give him a little walk and go outside and grab 5 minutes of sunshine. Like, I come back in after that much needed replenishment break, wholly prepared for the afternoon, but sort of the stack on stack on stack of appointments and no sort of regard for the humanity of, the people that work there. I think having good stewardship and kind of having those conversations more authentically and not feeling like you were going to be left out if you speak up for yourself having that courage I think you will be setting the tone for people that maybe are more nervous than you are to say that out loud, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. You never know who else needs that thing that you need. And so it's good to verbalize it. We have a question, and also we've gone international now. We've got Uganda, Italy, Abu Dhabi. So hi, everyone. Or Abu Dhabi. There, I said it right. So Vicky asks, how do you cope with the guilt when you put yourself ahead of everyone else for a bit?
I think that our thoughts really control our actions, and our thoughts are driven largely by our emotions. And I think that concept of guilt, I want to go back to a very simple rule for every person that flies, is you got to put oxygen on yourself first, because if you don't, you're incapable of helping anybody else, even more importantly, the people that you love the most, whether it's your child or your partner that's traveling with you. So I do think that getting over that guilt, not calling it guilt, I think you have a responsibility to keep integrity with yourself. And I think the first people that we break promises to is ourselves, whether it's I'm going to catch that workout or do that walk or meet a friend and just decompress, right? Where I don't have to worry about all of these things. I think instead of calling it guilt, maybe you change that, the words that we use and sort of infuse that with warmth and nurturing for yourself and just say, hey, I'm going to keep in integrity with myself and I am going to work out because I do want to live a long and healthy life and be able to see, in my case, what makes me get up and move my body for 30, 40 minutes a day, which I never used to do, is I want to grow to be 80 so that I can travel with my grandkids and show them the world. And that sparks me up, right? Like that value and that why energizes me. And I feel less guilty because I'm going to be traveling with my grandkids one day.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's the paradigm shift that we have to recognize that it's okay. And in fact, it's important. It can't be guilt. It has to be a need, and you have to see it that way. And one thing I've been still learning about, but like with my 8-year-old, after a while of, they're climbing all over you. I used to joke, I haven't peed in the I haven't been to the bathroom by myself since my child was born and all this stuff. And then
they still burst in when they get older.
Oh yeah, they sure do. But I started realizing, I got to put some boundaries up, and it's fine if they do it sometimes if something's happening, but this can't be a group event every time I'm in the bathroom. And, in fact, I think not to be gross, but I think every mom can attest to, like, it's a little quiet time. Like, let me close the door and pee and take a breath. And so this idea of setting boundaries, because I needed that when I come home from work, I need 5 minutes to just, decompress and be prepared for the next phase of my day. And I'll be a better mom for it if I get that little bit of time versus it is having to change the paradigm to, it has to happen. Otherwise you can't function. And then to see it as, if I do this now, I can travel when I'm 80 with my grandkids and all of that. I appreciate that answer. I see people from Texas. We've got the Netherlands. My friend Corey is there. She's another badass working mom living in the Netherlands. So beyond changing our paradigm from guilt to boundaries, and making sure that we understand that as a need, what are some other tips that you have for women like us?
I think it's a tough spot, especially if you're an executive or a business owner and you have all of these aspirations, balancing kind of those additional responsibilities. I think a lot of us have stopped kind of pursuing our passion. And I know that's a phrase that we're hearing everywhere. And you're like, what does that even mean? I do think that when you find a thing that fuels you and lights you up, it is a very different mentality and posture that you bring to your work and sort of the things that you do. And so I think really, really figuring out, hey, I'm good technically at this thing and I'm in this job that kind of pays the bills, but really, am I living a life that's fulfilled? And I think when we're in this generation, the sandwich generation, again, they need to find a better name, right? We feel compelled to stay with the status quo because we don't want to rock a boat that's already on choppy waters. But I do think that part of your wellness and part of your energy and your vibe and your je ne sais quoi, right, comes from doing something that you love, and that filling up of your cup spills out into all other parts of your life. And you're setting a better example for your children and the people in your circle. I think finances is a big one. I think that it stops us from pursuing our dreams, whether we have enough money or don't have enough money. I used to do Tony Robbins coaching. In fact, that's where my certification is from. And he says a lot of times people don't do the things they want to do, and it's not for a lack of resources, it's for a lack of resourcefulness. So I always say that you are a component of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And regardless of the 4, make number 5 really powerful. Make number 5 a component of the networks you surround yourself with, the coaches you talk to, the podcasts you listen to. Expose yourself to positive social media. Instead of Netflix and chill, which I don't have anything against that. I'm actually watching this Game of Thrones, whatever the second reboot is. I'm also committing to growth. I think recommit to yourself, and your goals. A big one is imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Right? Can I really do this? Do I really have the confidence to do this, the strength, the ability? I think talking really honestly to your parents, if you are responsible for them, without feeling guilt and shame or that you're letting them down is huge. I think that being vulnerable and being courageous, to channel my inner Brene Brown, those are 2 sides of the same coin. And I think if you really talk to them about boundaries, you mentioned boundaries, and my take on boundaries are, I set boundaries not to offend you, but to respect myself.
I love that.
Right. And so you're not doing this to hurt them or anything, but especially if you have siblings and your siblings have kind of opted out and leaving you holding the bag with the care, like you need to have some really honest conversations about what are the resources that you need to be more resourceful about thinking about to help you with your parents if you are taking care of them, in addition to the other responsibilities, right? Remember, we're loosening that Superwoman cape a little bit, and Superman. I have a little bit of a blind spot with this because most of my clients are women, but recently I've had a lot of, male executives reach out and say, hey, I'm in this situation also. And I struggle even more because I can't show up as being vulnerable. Right? Like I have even more of a tough persona and I call it pretending, right? Because we're wearing an identity that doesn't feel safe, doesn't feel true, and it makes us even more tired. So definitely, hopefully some of those resonated with you.
Yeah, they absolutely did. I also say you're the average of your 5 closest friends. We must be running in the same circles. And I always joke, I'd like to be the bottom of the average because it means I want to be the one bringing it down because then it means I'm hanging out with people that are inspiring
oh my gosh,
me and
stretch yourself.
Yeah. And I can, just to say that more clearly, can attest to the value and importance of having other females who are strong. I have a group of girlfriends. We're all in the coaching, training, consulting space, doing various things, but similar. And we're all moms. And so we call ourselves the divas, and there's 5 of us. And
I love that.
Yeah, thank you. We just got back from a trip a couple weekends ago where we go and just hammer things out, and we have emails going all the time and texts, and it's just 2 of us are going through a divorce, so it's just really helpful to have them. And then I'm in a mastermind group with female business owners, and the texts in there are really amazing too. I mean, people will there's 8 of us, and people will text, I just submitted a proposal. It's the biggest proposal I've ever submitted. And then everyone's like, you got this. And just to have that is so important. And so I think if anybody's feeling a little lost, you got to surround yourself with people who understand, and get a coach like Stacey. I love Kat's comment says, thank you for making me feel like I'm not the only conductor driving the hot mess express. I'm going to steal that.
We all have tickets to that same ride.
We do. I love how authentic you are and that it's okay to have moments. I love that. And then someone else did ask, Magda says, how do you cope with a parent feeling neglected when you're trying to be greedy? with your time. And I think you spoke to that too. It was just really making sure you set boundaries with them and be vulnerable with them. And I can't do it all, mom and dad, right?
Yeah. And, I think especially this generation, like, we could come up with many different excuses, but I think it also is not wanting to let them down is at the core of not having those conversations. I think that I will say personally for me, and this has been something big on my radar for the past years, I really like to surround myself with a couple generations older than me and younger than me, because I don't know what I don't know, and it's really good to have. And so maybe a strategy, which is out of the box, right? Is to if they're feeling lonely, maybe that's why maybe the feeling is not resentment, maybe it's loneliness or anxiety. And so I think having deeper conversations about what's the root cause of what it is they're feeling and addressing that, because we mask pain with like heartier emotions, right? Like it's usually from hurt, and then it becomes anger or disrespect or all of the things. But really it's, hey, I didn't like how I felt when you XYZ did this, or we had that conversation. I know for me, I felt a sense of resentment. I'm one of 5 kids. I'm the eldest, and so a lot of that responsibility falls to me in my mind. But my husband made a really great point, and nobody can tell him I said this, which was I didn't talk to my siblings about how I felt, because I felt like as the eldest, I had to bear that responsibility. And when I opened up to them, last Christmas, maybe there was some wine, maybe not, some liquid courage.
Yeah.
Definitely, we had a better conversation. And they're like, man, we didn't even know you needed help. You never said anything. And I was like stewing in my own resentment juices, right?
Yeah.
So I get to the source of what it is they're feeling. It may not be resentment when you have integrity with yourself, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just, I feel lonely. Maybe you can get a college kid to come hang out with them and show them how to use TikTok. Like that totally will keep them busy.
Yeah. I love TikTok, I got to say.
Yeah.
So one last question, speaking of confidence, and we talked about the imposter syndrome, which kind of is around that too. There was a research study in 2019 by Lean In, and it showed that 62%, or that men hold 62% of manager level seats and women only hold 38%. So there's probably some lack of confidence when you walk into a room just because you're the only female there. You can see that no one in your company or no female in your company is moving into those roles. So how do we overcome kind of some of that lack of confidence? How do we break the glass ceiling? Something we've been talking about for years and years.
For years, and we're still talking about writing books, doing movies about it.
Yeah.
I think confidence is it's different for different people, right? Depends on what you do, who you're talking to. You may be a very confident person, and in a situation where you feel like your peers or the people in that room are above your station, whether they're billionaires and you're a millionaire. I'm making that up, but definitely you feel a sense of discomfort. I think the first hack to confidence is not seeing that feeling as lack or limits or unworthiness or I am not good enough, but seeing it as a growth opportunity and leaning into that discomfort, because that's where the cool stuff starts. Because you get to be curious. You get to ask questions. You get to be like, hey, how come you're a billionaire? Like, what are you doing? Or I'm writing a book. Like, here's where I'm stuck. Like, and I think being vulnerable, I mean, we've talked about everything here from the crazy train to not using the bathroom, right? I think being real with people, I'll give you a true story. This happened day before yesterday. I am talking with a gentleman who owns I don't know, I think 13 companies, and I felt intimidated. I'm like, can I coach that guy? Like, I feel like he is not in my comfort zone. And we were laughing about something. We were texting back and forth. And he said, well, it's Labor Day weekend in the US. What are you going to do? And I said, and I'm going to be totally vulnerable here. I said, I had my eyebrows microbladed, and they are introducing themselves before I even open my mouth. And so he started laughing, and I said, but this is a result of me developing an autoimmune from too much stress, too much imbalance, and now my eyebrows are like jacked up. And so he totally sent me a note, and he said, I think you're the perfect coach for me because I gave myself shingles and Bell's palsy from too much stress. And if I had never like been myself, like just honest and vulnerable, and had that confidence that he would receive it in the manner that I was giving it, I think I would have talked myself out of being a phenomenal coach for this guy who I could actually learn from.
Yeah.
And so I think lean into it, right? Another thing is surround yourself with positive people. I know that's hard, and it's a trite thing sometimes to say, but I do think that when people are happy for you, when they show up for you, when they pat you on the back, when you have these little networks and these little circles of like-minded, whether it's, okay, we're talking about finance, or we're reading this really great book by Brene Brown, and I want to bounce some ideas off of you. Or did you see that podcast? Like, stimulate yourself where growth is a natural part of you, and you don't have time to feel inferior, insecure, lack confidence. There will be times you show up and you're not welcome at the table.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, as a woman of color, I have so many stories. That's like a whole separate podcast. But definitely, one of the things I've learned is I'm going to show up as my highest and best self. Mm-hmm. And the people that are going to vibe with me and feed on that energy and build off of that are my people. I'm not everyone's cup of tea.
Right.
And so I think going in with that releasing that perfectionism, great step.
Yeah. I love that. And wow, thank you for sharing that story with us. That's that's awesome. I love that you just opened up and were vulnerable and it worked in your favor. And I guess, I don't know, I've been caught up on, maybe I need to change my company name to Vulnerability Partners, because I've been talking about that so much.
Yeah.
And I think it's an example of that imposter syndrome. If you had started coaching him without that, maybe you would feel the imposter syndrome. You're trying to put on some sort of front so he thinks you're the best coach ever, instead of just being yourself. And I'm not trying to sound like, well, I'm amazing, but when I think about imposter syndrome, I often feel like I don't necessarily feel that. And I think it's maybe I'm too open. Maybe I'm the opposite. People are like, Catherine, we don't need to know all of that. But I'm just pretty like, and I make jokes sometimes about not knowing, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'll tell my team, wow, it's like we're a company and stuff, kind of like we're not, so just, I don't know. So I think weirdly, vulnerability comes with confidence, and confidence comes with vulnerability. So
I wasn't trying to impress him, which is what I think lack of self-confidence does. I was trying to connect.
Yeah.
And that's where that beginning of trust came from, because I didn't have any sort of artificial. And at that point, I will tell you, I released the outcome of the conversation. Mm-hmm. I just released it. I'm like, if I'm a good fit for this guy, if he can't accept me as the cup of tea, cup of soup, whatever that I am, it's really not going to be the most productive relationship.
Right. It's not going to work anyways.
Yeah.
So
releasing that outcome was like and I was like, I'm just going to test his limits, because I need to know that I can show up as myself.
I love that.
And do this. So it was great. It was a great learning experience for me, because I felt myself getting nervous and like sweaty and like, oh my God, can I coach this guy? This guy's a badass. And then I'm like, no, you're a badass.
Yeah, exactly. Don't you forget it. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You were vulnerable, and it actually builds your confidence. And so I think we see often confidence and vulnerability maybe as separate, but they're really hand in hand. So anyway, thank you so much. We're out of time, but this was awesome. I think we could talk forever again. And I would love, once your book is out, would love to have you back on.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Thank you so much, Catherine, with a C.
Yes.
I'm going to go change my daughter's name right now to the correct spelling, but I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thank you for joining. This was a great conversation, and everyone watching and listening, by all means, reach out to Stacey if you have questions. She's got a fantastic website. Why don't you tell us what it is?
So it is evolutioncoaching.com, or you can contact me on LinkedIn and we can go from there. But I'd love to answer more questions if you have. I'm pretty much an open book. So yeah, it'll be cool.
Awesome. Yeah. Reach out to Stacey. She's obviously a badass chick and has lots of good advice.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you. You too. Have a great